Play it today, Lesson 1. Listen to the sound of a piano. And an electronic organ. An electric piano. And a synthesizer. These instruments come in all shapes and sizes, and the sounds they produce can vary a great deal. But they all have one thing in common: a keyboard. The first thing to do before playing any keyboard instrument is to get yourself sitting in the correct position. It's this position that helps give you proper control of the keyboard. And as you start the Play It Today course, you'll be surprised how easily your playing technique develops once you've got into the habit of sitting in the right way. Take a look at Figure 2 on page 1 of your Lesson 1 booklet. This shows you how to sit correctly at the centre of the keyboard. It's advisable to use an adjustable stool, or at any rate a chair of the right height that doesn't have any arms. Make sure your back is straight, your shoulders are relaxed, and your elbows are by your side. Your legs should be together and your feet placed firmly on the ground. You should feel quite comfortable and relaxed. Figure 3 on page 2 shows the right position for your arms. Make sure that your upper arm and forearm form a right angle. Look carefully at figures 3A and 3B, which show the wrong arm positions. Now check your sitting position again. Remember, your shoulders and elbows should still be relaxed. When you feel comfortable, carry on. This sound means you can stop the cassette here if you want to, and practice what we've said so far. Now let your right arm hang by your side and allow it to swing as if you were walking along slowly. Look at Figure 4 and you'll notice that in this position your fingers are relaxed. They curve naturally, with the thumb next to the top section of the index finger as shown in Figure 4A. Take a look at Figures 5 and 5A on page 3. Lift your forearm slowly and let your hand fall lightly on the keyboard. Look at Figure 5B. The keys aren't just depressed by pressure from the fingers, but by the whole weight of your forearm. Try repeating the lifting movement, letting your hand drop slowly onto the keyboard until you feel the weight of your arm on the keys. As you sit at the keyboard, your wrist should be in a straight line with your forearm and the back of your hand. Study Figure 6, which shows the correct position of your arm, wrist and hand, with the fingers curved naturally. Now look at Figures 6A and 6B, which show the wrong ways of holding the hand, and check that you aren't making any of the same mistakes. Repeat the falling movement of the hand, but this time strike the keyboard with only one finger. First your middle finger, Next, the index finger, and then your ring finger. Turn to figure 7 on page 4, which shows the correct position for the fingers on the keyboard. By the way, it's important to keep your fingernails short, so that they don't interfere with the ball of the finger striking the key. Now repeat the exercise of letting your fingers fall on the keyboard, but this time with your left hand. In music, there are 7 basic sounds or notes, each named after a letter of the alphabet: C, D, E, F, G, A and B. If you look at your keyboard, you'll see that it consists of white keys and black keys. Each white key corresponds to one of these notes, which are repeated in sequence up and down the board. A closer look reveals that the black keys are divided into alternate groups of 2 and 3. The white key immediately to the left of each group of 2 black keys is C. On most keyboards there are quite a few C notes: lower Cs, and higher Cs. But for the moment, let's concentrate on the C note right in the centre of the keyboard, which is known as middle C. Referring to the drawing of the keyboard at the bottom of page 4, place the thumb of your right hand on middle C. Then place the other 4 fingers of your right hand on the adjacent white keys. Because the notes run in sequence, you now have your thumb on C, your index finger on D, your middle finger on E, your ring finger on F, and your little finger on G. If you're not sure how the fingers are named, check in figure 8 on page 6. Now repeat the falling movement of the hand again, this time so that your index finger strikes the D key. Then, keeping your hand steady, lift the middle finger, which should still be curved, and let it strike the next key, which is E. And at the same time, lift your index finger, which stops the note of D sounding. Notice how the weight of your forearm is now transferred onto the middle finger. Now lift your ring finger and let it strike F, at the same time lifting your middle finger from E. What happens is that as each finger comes down to strike a key, it effectively replaces the one before it on the keyboard. Do this, and already you'll find you're playing joined-up sounds. Just remember, when you lift each finger before bringing it down to strike a key, the finger should move at the first joint, and your hand should stay steady. Repeat these exercises with the index, middle and ring finger of your right hand, practicing slowly until the movement feels quite natural. The 4 tones that you'll hear in a moment tell you it's time to stop your cassette, practice what's been covered so far, and then carry on with lesson 1 in your booklet. When you come to the next cassette symbol in the booklet, restart the tape. In figure 8 on page 6, you've seen how the fingers of the right hand are numbered. And you've also seen on page 6 how the 3 notes you've just learned to play are written on the musical stave. These notes are D, E and F. And the drawing at the bottom of page 6 reminds you where they're to be found on the keyboard. You're now ready to play exercise 1 on page 7. Remember to keep your hand steady and to join up the sounds in the way you've already practiced. In musical terms, this is called playing legato. Begin each part of the exercise with the falling hand movement, so that you get used to feeling the weight of your arm behind the fingers. Play the notes slowly, making sure that you keep your hand in the correct position and that your fingers move in the right way from the first joint. Listen to exercise 1 being played now. Then afterwards, try it for yourself, following the instructions on the page. You've now learnt to play the notes D, E and F, and you've seen how they're written on the musical stave. But to make real music, you need to know how long each note lasts. When music is written down, the position of each note on the stave tells us its alphabetical name, whether it's C, D, E, and so on. The note's position also tells us about its pitch, whether it's an upper C, for example, or a lower D. But it's the colour and shape of the note itself that tells us how long it's supposed to last. Look at any piece of music, and you'll see that some notes are white, some are black, and some have tails while others don't. Each of these different kinds of note has a name and lasts for a different amount of time, which we measure in beats. Let's say that a whole note, which we call a semibreve, lasts 4 beats. This means that a half note, or minim, lasts 2 beats. A quarter note, or crotchet, lasts 1 beat, and an eighth note, or quaver, lasts only half a beat. To find out how many beats make up a whole note, we need to go back to the musical stave. In written music, this is divided up into small sections called bars, and in most pieces of music, each bar contains the same number of regular beats. Once you know how many beats there should be in a bar, you can tell how long to make each note last. And just as important, you can beat out the rhythm of the music that's written down. At the beginning of any piece of written music, you'll always find a fraction written just after the treble or bass clef. This is called the time signature, and its job is to tell you how many beats each bar has. One of the most common time signatures is 4/4. This tells you that there are 4 beats in each bar, and that each whole note lasts 4 beats. In other words, each separate beat is the length of a quarter note or crotchet. Have a look at page 8 of your lesson book, which begins by reminding you how long a semibreve, a minim and a crotchet last when the music has a 4/4 time signature. Now look at example A. This tells us that a semibreve, or whole note, is played for the same length of time as 4 beats, or 4 quarter notes. So when you play a semibreve, you should hold it down for a count of 4. Let's repeat that. In example B, the minim, or half note, lasts for a count of 2. Listen. And again. Example C shows a crotchet, or quarter note, which is held for a count of 1. Let's listen to that. And the crotchet again. At the bottom of the page, you can see 4 bars of music with the time signature 4/4, that is, with 4 beats to the bar. Notice that each bar contains a different combination of notes, and that each combination always adds up to a count of 4. In music, it's very important to count out the beats at regular intervals. Otherwise, you lose all sense of the rhythm of the piece you're playing. As a beginner, it's easy to lose track if you rely solely on counting the beats in your head, or even if you tap them out. A far more accurate way is to use a device called a metronome. And on page 9, you can see 2 different types. At the moment, there's no need to buy a metronome yourself. But from now on, you'll hear the metronome's steady clicking beats beating out the time of each piece of music you play. In exercise 2 on page 10, you can see that the notes D, E and F are written as semibreves, that is, whole notes, each worth 4 beats or quarter notes. So when you play these semibrieves, remember to hold each one down for a count of 4. Listen to the metronome. It will beat 4 times, the equivalent of 1 bar, after which you'll hear exercise 2 played for you. In exercise 3, the notes used are minims, that is half notes, each with a time value of 2 beats. Listen to exercise 3 played with the metronome. Exercise 4 uses crotchets or quarter notes along with the minims and semibrieves. But again, there are still 4 beats in every bar. Listen to exercise 4 played with the metronome. The tune Play It Today, on page 11, is a short piece written in 4/4 time for piano and backing group. We'll play it for you now, starting with the 4 beats of the metronome that set the rhythm and speed of the music. Now we'll play the same piece again, but without the piano. Practice on your own for a few minutes, then restart the tape and see if you can play the piano part along with us. 3 Notes for You on page 12 is also written in 4/4 time for piano and backing group. First, listen to it played complete. Now try playing the piano part along with the group, remembering to wait for the 4 beats of the metronome before you begin. In this first lesson, we've stressed time and again just how important it is to sit correctly at the keyboard. And now we'll remind you again. You should never feel any kind of muscular tension when you're playing. So if you have, please go back to the beginning of the lesson and make sure that your posture is correct and relaxed. During the lesson, you've been introduced to the musical stave, and to bars, beats and time signatures. But most important, you've learnt how to play and read your first 3 notes.